morning and welcome. So once again, this is our Monday morning virtual yoga Pilates fusion. Let me not call it by the wrong name. So we're going to start, as I often do, lying down. You can simply lay on the floor, or you can create a little situation where your chest is elevated using either a blanket or a pillow or a couple of yoga blocks, whatever you have handy. I have a blanket handy, eventually, so I'm going to use that. So the way that I work with the blanket is I fold it a few times. So this one is folded 3 times, once in half the longest way, and then again, and then one more time that way. And then I can just fold it into thirds or roll it like a little cake, right? Like a little roll cake. But instead, I like it folded. It's a little less abusive, a little less obtrusive. Maybe that's the right word. So it goes down the length of the spine. It just gives you a chance to open up some of the areas around the front of the shoulder where we have some secondary breathing muscles that help us take deep breaths. So if you're into that, let's do it. Oh, okay. So I like the blanket, if I'm using a blanket, to start about where my bottom of my rib cage is. Some people will like it all the way to the top of the pelvis. If I'm using a block or something a little firmer, I like it up under my shoulder blades, so much higher up. So depending on what you're using, you can, once you're on the block, or if you're not using anything, then you'll be fine, just, laying on the floor. But if you are, then you might want to kind of play with how your head is supported, where the object begins on your body and ends. And then we're going to let the arm kind of rotate so that area right there in front of the chest is where we're aiming, or the top of the shoulder. The arms can go out a little wider or stay in a little tighter depending on how it feels. This is probably one of my favorite leg positions, which is constructive rest. It allows the hip flexors to kind of go back into the body and release a little bit. So if you've got tight hip flexors, this is a way to make it a little softer. You can stretch the legs all the way out straight, or you could also put the feet together with the knees open, so you've got like a bound eagle or butterfly pose. So just choosing one of those for yourself today. And then we'll concentrate on the breath, kind of flaring out the rib cage a bit from time to time to make a little bit of space in between the ribs. And so I might draw my navel in just a little bit and ask the breath to go a little deeper into the ribs now and again. That's not the most comfortable way for me to breathe, so I do that in between, at least one breath in between. That just allows the diaphragm to expand as much as it wants to. Does help release tension that might have developed in the inner, spaces between the ribs. It also gives us a chance to just focus our mind and let go of all the other things that are on our agenda for later on today, or things that we have to accomplish at some point. Let's do about 3 more breaths like that. the most comfortable. I'm going to just bring mine in so it's easier to roll to my side. And then we're going to slip out whatever's under our back. Oh. When you come back onto your back, you might notice either like a little impression left behind, or there might be a sense of, something having changed. Sometimes it feels like my back kind of spreads out horizontally, gets a little wider. Sometimes it just feels like there's sort of still something under there. So you can give yourself a little kind of movement in and around the shoulders and the upper back. Oh. See how that went? We're going to position the feet a little wider than the hips, and then just drop one leg into the center and then the other, and let the hips kind of go with. Whoa. If that hurts your knee, don't go that far. Just a little bit will do. Okay, we're going to take the legs all the way over to one side. So just picking a side and taking both legs over so that you're in a twist. You can put your blanket underneath your leg if you like. Oh, I like to push my elbows into the floor and kind of move my upper back so that it's really level. And then reach out a bit through the arm on the side that I'm not taking my knees towards, so that I get a little bit more stretch through the main chest muscle there and the outer hip. You can wrap your leg around if you like. We're just going to let ourselves kind of settle into this for about 4 more breaths. With every exhale, I'm trying to just let the body get heavy and relaxed. I'm going to take my leg all the way back on my next inhale. Oh, and come back to that little windshield wipery shape. I'm just feeling for the moment when the side that I was just stretching kind of softens a bit. And then taking the legs the opposite direction. And again, adjusting the upper back as you like. Maybe extending out through the arms, maybe wrapping one leg around the other. Okay, so we're going to take 2 more breaths here. And then we're going to come on back to the center. Now you can bring the knees up so that they're about over the top rim of the pelvis or just below the navel. Take the arms out so that they make kind of a T shape. You can put the palms down or leave the palms up, but press the upper arms into the floor. We're going to try to keep the shoulders steady as we take the knees about, 2/3, 3/4, somewhere like that around over to the side. And then you can extend one leg, you could extend both legs, or you can just curl the knees towards your armpit. Bring them back to about that pelvis level or so. Come to the middle, lift the knees as high as they want to go, come over to the opposite side and curl or straighten the legs. So just going from one side to the other, pressing the upper arms down nice and deep into the floor. And then we'll just use this opportunity to warm up the obliques. going to do one more set after I've completed the one I'm working on. Coming back to the center, and one more time, just lifting the hips. And I'm going to bring my legs to the ground. So I'm going to stretch my left leg all the way out, and then just draw the right leg in. Give that right leg a little bit of a squeeze if you can. And then spin your right foot in circles. Oh, I like the feeling of the ankle joint movement, and then go the other direction. And then we're going to point and flex the foot. Now, I can hold onto the leg pretty, I can get pretty straight with the leg, but you may need to let go. Just depends on how your hamstrings are working out today. So we're just going to extend that leg and then re-bend it and hug it in. So you can let go of it and extend the leg, or if it feels okay to keep holding onto it and extend the leg. It doesn't have to go all the way straight. We're just kind of getting into that sensation of stretching out the back of the thigh. Maybe other calf muscles or glutes as well. All right, so hugging that leg in one more time. We're going to stretch it out, let go of it. Now, we're going to use this leg as our kind of aim. So we're going to take the left elbow up towards the right knee, and then you can leave your left leg resting on the floor as it is. You can lift it a little bit to create a little bit more work for yourself, like you have to stabilize a little bit more and use the hip flexor. Or if you like, you can bend the knee and put the foot on the ground to minimize any extra pressure from the hip flexor that might be causing trouble for your low back. So you're just choosing an option that works best for you. We're going to try to take that elbow up, and then we're going to come straight up the middle, okay? So elbow to the big toe, and then straight up the middle. Exhaling, trying to keep your head resting in your hands so that your abs have to do the work and not your neck. So twisting and then straight up the middle. Let's do it twice more. Now, once you're done there, you're going to let your head rest. We're still leaving this leg in the air. The arms come down beside the hips. We're going to press down nice and firm. We're going to try to keep the torso completely stable as you take the leg across and then sweep it out in a circle. Use the leg that is on the ground to really work and press the heel down. Squeeze in through the sides of your waist so that as you're circling the leg, the torso stays very stable, even through the resistance point where the leg is out at its farthest point. Last one. And then we're going to come back to the center, go out to the side, sweep the legs together, come straight up the middle. Again, holding steady through the hips. 2 more of those. All right, so once the leg is up, we're going to just bend that knee. You can let that foot rest on the floor. We're going to take the left foot and bring it in right beside the right foot. Come back to that slightly wide little windshield wiper move, if it feels okay to you to do that. And then let both legs extend for a moment and just see if there's any differences or asymmetry that you feel in the body, whether that's the right side or the left side waist, or the right. Just noticing any slight differences that may be there. There might not be any. That's okay too. So we're going to leave the right leg out long, and I like to stretch out through that right side just a little bit because we've been working that quite a bit. And then bring the left leg in, give that guy a hug, and then spin the left foot in circles. Again, you just figure out where your right foot should live. Oh. in the opposite direction with the circles. And then pointing and flexing. So then kicking the heel gently away, either to straighten that leg or letting go of the leg altogether and straightening it out. Just kind of feel your way through the hamstring stretch there, or it could be, other places too. So once we've got that leg all the way straight, we're going to let go of it. Again, we're going to kind of use that as our guide to move towards. So the right elbow is going to move towards the big toe, and then we're just going to come straight up the center. So again, choosing how we're going to work with the right leg. Is it going to hover? Are you going to bend the knee? Are you going to let the leg hang out straight? So the elbow up, curl straight up the center. Elbow, and then straight up the center. Again, trying to keep the head pressing back so that the work really does have to be done by your abdominals. Holding the pelvis nice and steady. And 2 more. So once you've come down, taking your hands back down by your hips, reaching out through the legs, taking that leg across and sweeping a circle out and around. I'm going to relocate myself a little bit here. So I've got room for a circle. Coming across, out and around. And again, we're really holding steady as that leg makes its big movement out to the side, squeezing in through the sides of the waist. When you get to the top next time, go out to the side, come together, and then straight up the middle. Holding the sides of the waist in. Last one. And once that leg comes back up, bringing that foot to the ground, and then bringing the right leg up to meet it. And then one last time here this morning, giving yourself that little opportunity to do some little windshield wiper moves if that feels okay to you, or choosing something else if you like something different. Oh. One more time, we're going to stretch out nice and long here and see where that landed us. Oh. So we're going to do some roll up, which could be done like I'm going to do it, which is in 2 parts, so that I make myself do it with integrity. Or if you can roll all the way up to a sitting position, stretch over your legs and roll all the way back down, then you can do it that way to complete the entire process all at once. So we're going to stretch out nice and long, curl up, and the object of the game is to roll up nice and slow, so as far as you can get yourself to go, and then stretch out when you get there. So I'm doing just little halves so that I don't do this thing where I force myself up, because that's not very productive, right? So then we'll stretch over the legs at some point and roll it back down. Making it nice and slow. So just asking my body to do half of it at this moment, and then I'll get to the other half, right to that point where I feel that force trying to exert on my hip flexors, making myself do the work with my abdominals. So I'm going to do 1 more like that. Then I am going to come all the way up to sitting. If you're following me, if not, keep going. That's also good. So from here, sitting up nice and tall, folding the pelvis forward toward the legs, sitting up nice and tall, and then taking the navel back and rolling down as far as you can before things start to collapse or the legs lift up. Sitting up tall, folding forward, sitting up tall, rolling back. So there's a tendency too, sometimes when we do this, to hold the breath. So make sure you're exhaling out. And then inhaling as you come back up and stretching over the legs. And then exhaling as you roll down. So I'm going to do 2 more of these. And for those of you doing a full roll up, it might mean that there's 1 more. We're going to all wind up sitting. All right. So eventually we get ourselves to a seated position, and we're going to take ourselves up to all fours. So when you get there, you can come to that point. So we're going to start with the fingertips aiming forward. You can move the hands slightly forward of the shoulders if that helps the wrists. And we'll do a couple of rounds of cat with the fingertips aimed forward. Now if you can do it, you're going to turn the palms so that the fingertips aim out to the side. If that bothers your wrist, you can stay with the first option. Now I do the next section one hand at a time, but you can do both if it feels okay to you. So I'm going to rotate towards the outside, rotate the hand all the way around on one arm so that my fingertips point towards my knee, and then do 2 more. Little cat-cows. When I'm done there, I'm going to let that wrist shake out and then point the hand back the way I had it, turn the opposite hand, and then do 2 rounds of cat with the other hand. And then release the wrist and give it a little shake. All right, so we're going to take the knees out a little bit wide, take the right arm and thread it under the left armpit. And then from here, you could take your left arm up and over. I like to grab the mat or push with my hand so that I can take that right shoulder, press it backwards, and then this just aids me in holding myself in the twist. So whichever method works better for you. I can ease the weight towards my heels or ease the weight towards my shoulder as it seems appropriate. Keep your head and neck resting softly on the floor. Well, head anyway, so there's no strain in the neck. Last breath on this side. Now we're going to try to plant the left hand really firmly, take that right arm, bring it all the way out front, and then stretch the left leg out with it. Curl the knee and elbow together, stretch them out, curl them together, stretch them out, curl them together, stretch it out, reach between those 2 points. Now I'm going to bring this left leg all the way forward, so I'm going to move my hand a little to the right, and then coming into the lunge. You can leave your hands down low or bring your upper body up. I'm going to ease the hip forward until I feel a little stretch there. And then I'm going to just ease the hip back until I feel like I'm more balanced over my knee. Now, if you need, you can put some padding underneath your shin to keep your kneecap happy. So easing forward into that and coming back. Sometimes for me, just lifting the foot off the ground, lifting the shin up a little bit, makes the knee a little happier too. So you can try that option. And then coming back. So now with a lot of sensitivity and nice and slow, I'm going to go into the lunge just to the point where I feel that intensity. And then I'm going to bring myself into a little bit more of a back bend to stretch the rest of the muscle that lives up a little higher without overdoing it there at the front of the hip. 2 more breaths here. Taking the arms down, stretching the front leg out. One more chance for the hamstrings to get a little love. This leg can be all the way straight or a little bit more bent. So when I'm stretching over the center of my leg, I feel this more in the outside portion of the hamstring area. And so I'm going to do that for 1 more breath. And then some of you will know this, but if I come to the diagonal, and you'll find your perfect diagonal spot, and then fold in, then the sensation wraps around a little bit more to the inside. And again, some of us might want more, more stretch there, or some might want less. All right, so now this leg is in a position where I can shift the weight and sweep it back. I'm going to give myself that wide child's pose again. Take this left arm, thread it underneath the right side, and then you can make adjustments to get that into the right spot. So 2 more breaths there. And then I'm going to bring myself out, try to take that right arm or left arm straight out, right leg straight back. Nice long stretch. Curl in, stretch it out, curl in, stretch it out. Oh, 1 more time, curl it in, stretch it out. Now I'm going to once again bring that right leg this time forward. And then I can take the lunge on this side. Did I say arm? Hopefully I said leg. We're going to ease forward into this hip flexor stretch and then ease my way back out to the point where I don't really feel that sensation, and then ease my way in. I'm trying to develop sensitivity here to the point right where the stretch starts. Ease my way in. It also gives me a chance to kind of find the edginess of it. So we're going to go right to the point where we feel the sensation. Add that little extra bit of back bend to the pose if you like. And 1 last breath here. And then we're going to fold and try to straighten out this front leg. Pausing for a few breaths over the, kind of over the center of the leg. And then moving a little bit to the diagonal. If your hip wants to turn in, maybe back off just a little bit. We're going to try to keep the toes more or less pointing up. So 1 more breath here, and then I can shift the weight just a little bit so I can get that leg all the way back. And then we're going to take this, if possible, into downward facing dog. Now, if downward dog is not your jam, then you can stay with an all fours position, or you can come right to a standing position. So if you and downward dog are friends, then you can move your shoulders around, walk in place. Kind of find a little opening and some space in this pose. When it feels like you've had enough, you'll just walk yourself into a forward bend. Test out the situation in your hamstrings. With a couple of breaths, and then bring yourself to standing. Ooh. So once you are there, you can bring yourself to a mountain pose. So toes point forward, balanced about hips distance apart or so. And then try to find this point. So we're going to rock the weight back a little bit so it's more in the heel. Rock the weight forward a little bit so it feels like we're going to almost stumble forward. Try to find front to back. Where is the right center point of the foot for the weight of the body? And then do a little like lean to the right, lean to the left, right to the point where it feels like you're almost going to fall over. And then try to find that center point right to left, right over the feet. So we're trying to find the point where the ball of the foot, the heel of the foot are balanced evenly, left to right, front to back. Spread out your toes. Let your shoulders relax, grow a little taller. And then we'll pause there for one more breath. And then if you've got room to sweep your arms, awesome. Otherwise, just reach straight up in the air. Nice lung stretch, maybe a little back bend, and then fold forward. You can soften the knees quite a lot there. Come up halfway. Exhale, fold. We're going to step back to down dog. Again, you can skip this and go right to plank. Coming forward into a plank, you can maintain a full plank, a modified plank of some sort, making that more or less challenging. We're going to hold it for 2 breaths. So strong through the navel, tailbone drawing in, and then we're going to lower down. You can go halfway or all the way to the floor, come into cobra or an upward dog if that's your favorite pose. Coming back into downward dog. Taking a nice big breath, lifting the right leg up. We're going to bring that knee straight down the center, curl up. Stretch it back, bring it straight down the center, curl up. Stretch it back one more time, bring it straight down the center, and if we can, we're going to just slow motion step that foot forward. So we might have to do some little adjustments to come up for a high lunge. So aiming the feet forward, making enough space between your feet that you feel stable, and then coming on up. We're going to pick up the front of the pelvis, press back through the heel and the back, see where that lands us. Might be a bit of a wobble here. So then straightening out the front leg, and then bending it to come back, bending the back knee if you like, and straightening that leg back up. So straightening out the front leg, bending it back, bending the back knee, bringing that back to straight. Last one. Straightening out the front leg, bringing it back, bending the back knee, straightening that back out. Now we're going to bring the back foot in far enough that we can put both feet on the floor, as close to pointing forward through the toes. Again, not on a tightrope, the legs a little wide apart. And then folding forward one more time. We're going to talk to this hamstring situation, whatever the situation may be. And then there might, for me, there's a lot of calf sensation in the back leg. Now I'm going to bend my knee and step that foot forward enough that I can catch the weight on the front leg. And then I'm going to take this into a standing splits, which means simply that I'm just going to lift this left leg as high as I can. And if I'm feeling a little bit brave about things, I can try letting go of the floor. When I wobble, I catch. So notice how your toes start to grip and grab when you're feeling a little wobbly. Taking one more breath. I'm going to bring that knee in nice and snug, put it down beside my right foot, come up halfway. Exhale, fold, taking care of your hamstrings in the way that's appropriate, and then coming all the way to standing. Could you feel the difference between your right hamstring and your left? I know I could. So finding ourselves back to that mountain pose. And again, weight forward and back, almost to the point of falling over, falling forward. Trying to find that balanced place, left to right as well. Feeling the point where the balance allows the toes to spread out. We're going to see if we can recreate that in our standing splits. So nice big breath. Lifting, exhale, folding forward. Inhale, coming up halfway. Exhale, fold again, either right to plank or to down dog first. And then your plank. And again, maintaining an appropriate level of a plank for you. Ooh, we're taking 2 breaths. And then lower and down, you can come to your favorite back bend. And then back to down dog. Taking that left leg up when you get there, bringing it straight down the middle. Reaching it back. Straight down the middle. One more time, stretching it back. Bringing it straight down the middle, curling up. And then just as slow as I can, putting that foot on the ground. Again, making adjustments once I'm there, because I can't always get that right where I want it. Making sure my feet are not on a tightrope. All my toes are pointing forward. Coming up and trying to find that balance. So again, whoo, a high lunge. Straightening out the front leg and bringing it back. Bending the back knee and straightening that leg back, pressing the heel back. So straight leg in the front and bent leg in the back and straight. One more time, straight leg in the front and then bent leg in the back and then straight. And then I'm going to bring this foot in far enough to get both feet on the floor. Fold, giving yourself whatever room your hamstrings need. Maybe you need to stay up a little higher so that you don't tear things right at the sit bone. Blocks are helpful if you've got them, or furniture to give you something to hold on to if the floor is too far away. Couple more. Okay, so we're going to take this back foot, bring it in far enough to get the weight on the front leg, the left leg, and then we're going to take that right leg up into a standing splits. And again, I'm noticing like how the weight shifts in my foot. Can I keep that weight balanced on my foot? It's not easy. Taking one more breath. We're going to take the hands to the ground, step way back. This time either into plank directly or downward dog. And then coming into plank. Choosing your appropriate level of plank. And then lower it all the way down to the belly, nice and steady. So we're going to start with the hands up under the shoulders, legs reaching back. Firmly press the tops of the thighs and the tops of the feet into the floor, like you're trying to make your legs longer, and then press them deeper, and then use your back muscles to lift yourself into cobra. So the hands are here for support, and also so we can broaden the collarbones. Coming on down, slide your hands back a little, broaden the collarbones, coming up, coming back down, slide the hands back, broaden the collarbones, coming up. Now we're going to take this right leg and bring it over the top. So we'll wind up laying on our back. So I'm going to, let's bring that baby right on up and over. And then once you're here, you might need to readjust so that you're centered on your mat. We're going to bring this leg in and then the other. So we're going to curl the torso up. If I feel like I'm pulling on my neck more than I should, then I can put my hands behind my head. For this to start with, Then we're going to extend the arms and legs and come back. Now you can leave your hands there so you can keep your head resting, and you can concentrate on the work of the abdominals, holding you steady here through the shoulders. Or if you like, you can bring your arms down lower, extend out both the arms and the legs. So there's some in-between spaces and places for all of us to be able to succeed here. Cool. Curl in, extend the legs, hold that curl, and the arms if you can. Curl back in. Extend, curl it back in. Extend, curl it back in. Try to avoid using your neck muscles. Use those abdominals to hold yourself steady. Keep the shoulder blades level. Coming back one more time. Now we're going to take the head to the ground, feet to the ground. Make sure you've got a little bit of room. Extend your right arm, roll onto your right side. So the hips are stacked, shoulders are stacked, and my head and neck are neutral. We're going to turn the toes out, and if you want a little extra work, you can lift the legs off the ground a little bit. If you need a little extra stability, bend the bottom knee. So we're going to take this top leg straight up, flex through the foot to bring it down. Okay? So pointy toe coming straight up, flex through the foot to come down, pointing toe straight up, flex to come down. We're going to do that 2 more times. Reach through the whole bottom side of the leg, and then here reaching through the top side of the leg. Okay, when you get down to the bottom, we're going to hover the leg, but rotate it inward and make a little circle. See if you can kind of maintain the stability here in the core while you circle that leg. And then keeping that, rotate the opposite direction, trying to hold that little internal rotation right there on the thigh. Okay, pause there, bring the feet together, bring your heels back, lift the feet off the floor. We're going to stabilize by hugging in the sides of the waist. You can put your arm up by your ear, on your hip, or in front of you. Hold the stability in the core as you open the knees. Extend the leg out if you can. If it hurts your knee, just hold it steady and then bring the knees together. So either holding and then coming back, or opening, extending, and coming back. So we're just going to keep those going for 4 more. Hopefully this outer part of your hip is feeling that. So we've got 1 left to go. On that 4th one, bringing the knees back together, we're going to extend the legs. Then this top leg is going to come forward in some fashion. It can come straight out, or you can bend the knee and rest it on the floor. You can rest the foot on the floor, whatever's going to be the best. Now I have a tendency when I rest my foot to want my hip to push backwards. So I'm going to concentrate on keeping my hips nice and steady. I'm going to lift the bottom leg here, my right leg, and pulse it up for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Holding it steady right there for 10, 9, don't let it fall, lift a little higher, 6, 5, 4, hug in the side of the waist, 2, 1, bringing it down. We're going to roll back onto our back here. You can take a moment to stretch yourself out, or to do these little windshield wipers from the beginning. Now I'm going to turn myself around in a moment. But what we can do, either you can do the teaser from here, stretching out and starting your teaser, or you can come to the boat pose if the teaser might be a little on the extreme side for you. So I'm going to do a boat pose. So those of you that want to do the teaser, go for that. And then I'm going to do this little 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 of the boat pose. I'm going to reach in here, try to get hold of my ankles, and then, or my thighs. I was gonna do an open leg rocker, but I know right now that there are furry people behind me, so I'm gonna turn first, and then hopefully, without any potential for injuring my ferrets, I'm gonna rock, and come up and catch that balance. So if you're still doing the teaser, you can continue with that, or switch when you're up to an open leg rocker. You can go straighter with the legs, whoop, and it can be a little bit more challenging. Oh. All right, so maybe do one more of those. And then, we're gonna roll onto our left side. So lifting that left arm, rolling onto the left side, getting the hips stacked, shoulders stacked to the degree possible. We're gonna turn the toes out. So this is an external rotation at my hip. Here with that thigh bone, I'm gonna take that leg up and then come down. And the whole way up, I'm stretching through the top of this leg, the whole way down, stretching through the back of the leg. Three more. The last one. All right. Now, elevating the leg and then rotating it inward again, like noticing the point where the hip wants to fall in a direction, holding that hip nice and steady, rotating just this femur bone, the big bone, and then we're gonna circle that leg, trying to maintain that little internal rotation there at that thigh. For me, one direction to circle is a little easier, so I start with that one, holding steady through the core. Then pause. Now keeping the internal rotation, we're going to try to spin that leg the other direction. Okay, so we're going to bring the feet together, bring the heels behind us, lift the feet. So now I've got that internal rotation. I'm going to change that when I open the knees. Potentially extend out that lower leg, toes come together, knees come together. So this little butterfly or clam movement, whichever you want to call it, kicking it out. And hopefully we're feeling that nice kind of outer hip work here. You might even be feeling this little inside muscle here that helps with the internal rotation. 4 more if we can do it. Two more. All right, so then once we're done there, we're gonna straighten the legs out. Bring that top leg over, maybe plant it some way. Again, make sure your hips are level, shoulders are still level. We're gonna lift that bottom leg up. Pulse it up for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now hold it lifted for 10, 9. Lift the side of your waist. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring it on down. We're going to roll back onto our back. Oh. And then once here, we're going to take a moment and snuggle the shoulder blades underneath. Get the feet nice and firm. And then we're going to take the hips up and then bring them back. So this is called Dvipadipitham in the yoga world. So the movement is to kind of scoop up one vertebrae at a time and come down one vertebrae at a time. So we're going to you can come up onto the tiptoes if that's helpful, but we're going to let the hips lift, kind of try to feel the back snake all the way up one at a time. It's easier for me to feel that one vertebrae at a time movement on the way down. So I do that part really slow, and the lifting part a little bit faster because it's a little bit less easy for me to articulate the spine one at a time that way. So you just kind of work with what you've got. We're going to do that 3 more times. So scooping up one vertebrae at a time. When you get to the top, pausing there, and then coming down nice and slow, one bone at a time, trying to feel each bone lower down to the floor from in your vertebral column. At the point where the sacrum touches down, you just kind of let it roll all the way through. Do it again. Oh. Now, after you've done that 4 times, you're just going to let yourself pause for a moment, bring your knees in if you like. Or you can go back to that little windshield wiper action that we did at the first part. Now, we're going to do a little stretch for the hip flexors. You'll need something potentially to go underneath your hips. You might not. So I'm going to do this one leg at a time, and generally speaking, on my right side, I'm definitely tight enough that I don't need anything. But on the left, sometimes it's nice for me to have either a folded blanket or a block under my hips. So if you want to start that way, you can definitely do that. If you know your hip flexors are tight, you may not need it. So I'm going to stretch my left leg all the way out. I'm going to take that right leg, bring it back, and holding onto the foot, I'm going to draw my right knee towards the ground. So it's like I'm coming back to that lunge shape, but upside down, or it's a half happy baby, however you want to think about it. Now see how my left hip is lifting off the floor? So that gives me the room I need to stretch out that left side hip flexor and really try to release. The focus today has largely been on hip flexors, so if you have tight ones, maybe this was for you, or not, depending on how you feel about stretching them. So 2 more breaths like that. And again, if I elevate my hips, I have more room for this leg to drop into the stretch. Again, if you've got tight hip flexors, you won't need any extra room probably. But if you're, built a little more loose in that front, you might be fine, or it might be better supported with a little bit under your hips. All right, so I'm going to stretch my right leg out. Same idea. I'm going to bring this left leg in. I'm pulling this knee a little bit towards the floor so my right hip lifts. And then I've got that room I need to stretch out that right side and breathe. And we're going to do a couple more breaths, and then it's Shavasana time. So if you would prefer or for whatever reason, maybe you have to work or something, some crazy nonsense like that, you just leave me a little note in the chat that says you were here so I can count everybody. If you've got to leave early. Otherwise, we're going to let ourselves stretch out. And take a moment just to relax. Having something under the hips or under the legs can be nice here as well, so the low back can relax completely. For me, that action of stretching the hip flexors does the job of allowing my pelvis to rest more evenly on the floor. And then the point of this pose is to allow the body to relax so deeply that we really do shift into that parasympathetic nervous system. Any movement or exercise we do keeps a little bit of our nervous system online, checking us out, making sure we're not doing things to injure ourselves. And so this is our opportunity to really just let the vigilant nervous system relax, and that part of us that really is about relaxation take over. Especially in times when there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of stress, it's nice to give yourself this little extra bit of time to just let go. relaxed without moving yet. Just notice your breath. Take a breath so deep you can feel it all the way to your toes. Let it go with a big deep sigh. And then stretch and wiggle. And maybe one more time with the windshield wipers, or bring your knees all the way in and give yourself a little back massage. That feels nice too. And then when you're ready, you can bring yourself up to a seated position. Thank you so much for joining me this morning for some yoga Pilates fusion. Hopefully it was nice. You can tell me at the end. Take a nice big breath. And a sigh. Namaste.